This next article from the Daily Mail, teacher Monica Young is accused of driving a boy to the park to have sex with him. The female teacher stands accused of driving the male student, who was 14, to a Western Sydney park after school so she could clamber on top of him in the car. So there she is. She was 23. Sure. So answer, question, would you tap that on realsimplenews.net/issue 80? Does she deserve the same treatment as Jeffrey Epstein? This is the question that we all want to know. Because Epstein, it definitely seems as though there's a lot of just fake news surrounding it, just shock and people trying to come up on it. If Jeffrey Epstein was a woman, would this be the same scenario? No. Obviously, the answer would be no. So the question is, what is the social punishment that this woman should receive? Should she be canceled, outcasted? Is it actually different that she's a woman? What was it? Is it? Does it make it any better or any less bad if it was the man who instigated it? And if so, does the guy have any less responsibility than for starting it than somebody who is over the age of 18? Right. So it seems she's 23 here, 14. So obviously it's a pretty big age difference, but I think the vast majority of guys would definitely bone her. Like they wouldn't even hesitate. It's like, I don't really quite understand that. I don't, it seems, I'm not trying to say that you should do that. You shouldn't. People should be in school. Definitely should be in school. Should not be engaging in any sort of relationships. Should be. But I don't know. It seems to me like if the person was a woman over the age of 18 having sex with a teenager, no one's going to say anything about this person should die. But if it's a man and it's a teenager, the lefties all think that she should die or the guy should die. And it seems to me that that's kind of hypocritical. I personally think that would be just absolutely crazy to endorse that. You got to compare it, though. Like, how does this stand with Epstein, right? So you got Epstein. He was a rich guy, he was a hedge fund. He was a computer programmer dork who got $1 bazillion in a hedge fund. And then he would have sex with hookers, probably because he put off delayed gratification, probably was like going too hard on the computer programming. And then then he was just turned into a pervert. But is it different whether or not somebody's engaging in sex trafficking, where they're trying to make money by exploiting young girls? Is it fundamentally different than somebody who is a rich guy who runs a modeling agency and the girls all know that they could sleep with him and get money? Does that still make the guy a sex trafficker? Because it seems to me like it's not. But I don't know. I wouldn't tap that. Probably wouldn't tap that. No. Definitely is a double standard, though, when it comes to it. Anything else here from Hacker News? It's from Harold Sheets, and the article says United States Postal Service USPS files for patent for a blockchain-based voting system. USPS has reportedly filed for patent on. Why do you have to rephrase the thing? The following President Donald Trump's conclusion that mail-in voting would represent ballots all over the place and conclusion that mail-in voting would represent ballots all over the place, and fraudulent ballots would be renamed after dogs and dead people. The patent was filed back in February 2020 was made public on Thursday, the 13th of August. The public patent application that contains 47 pages is majorly occupied with diagrams showing various components of proposed mail-in voting systems, coupled with each stage of the electronic process. The patent filed by the Postal Service reads in part, quote, "A voting system can use the security of blockchain and mail to provide a reliable voting system. Registered voter receives a computer-readable code in the mail and confirms identity and confirms correct ballot information in an election. The system separates voter ID and votes to ensure vote anonymity, then stores the votes in a distributed ledger blockchain. Often a voter is not able to or does not desire to go to the polling place to cast a vote. An election official in a jurisdiction may wish to send somebody secure ballots via mail, or jurisdiction may opt to utilize electronic resources for voting. In such cases, a secure voting system is desired. The security of a voting system can be increased by using the dependability and security of the United States Postal Service. Similar entity, and this can be incorporated with a secure computer system using a blockchain or distributed ledger that ensures vote security to prevent tampering and modification of electronic voting results." So there's one problem with it. Yeah, we need this. I personally actually was planning on building this exact thing identically to exactly the way that they were saying it for the Freedom Government. It was definitely been talking about this for a while. I was unable to execute because of some other technology that was holding me up. But we do need to for our absentee ballots, we do actually need to do this blockchain technology. So that's great that they're doing it. So what they would do is you have to like verify the votes were counted. So what you have to do is you have to take these anonymized codes. You print out how you voted with the anonymized codes. Print that out and you put it in some public place downtown. And then you would go down and you would go look for your number and you would count up the number of votes around you. And then you would check, make sure your vote was right. And then you would count up the votes around you. And then we would use the blockchain to do that. That's my Freedom Government, part of the Freedom Government. So there's a problem, though, with just doing all mail-in voting. And there's other ways to commit voter fraud other than defrauding the ballot. Other ways that you commit voter fraud is through voter intimidation. This is one that is completely ignored by the left. I live in Oregon. We have all mail-in voting here. And so everyone gets a ballot all at once. And people can take their ballots and they can fill out the ballots in groups of people. People live with other people in these hierarchical configurations. Often there will be one person who controls another person. For instance, a husband who controls a wife or vice versa. When these people are in the same room voting, the person who is controlling the other person can influence that person's vote. They can force them to vote a certain way, and people can receive harsh retribution if they do not vote the way that the brainwasher wants them to vote, or the person who is controlling. Another way that that alone is a compelling enough reason to ban vote by mail, because everybody's doing it, and so that means that this these number of fraudulent forced votes are then greatly multiplied. Another way that people can do this is they can fill out the ballot. If they live with an elderly person who has dementia, they can fill out that person's ballot for them, and then they can tell that person, you forgot to fill out your ballot, and then have them sign the ballot. Another method to commit voter fraud is by taking people's ballot, because when you do vote by mail and everyone gets their ballot at the same time, then people know that they can steal ballots at a specific time. When you do an absentee ballot, this is not the same, because everyone goes, or most of the people go to the polls. And then if you're going to do an absentee ballot, then you would request an absentee ballot, but it doesn't get sent to everyone all at the same time, because the election starts and then you would submit a request for an absentee ballot. This makes it so you have a smaller amount of mail-in votes. So if there is any fraud on the smaller amount of mail-in votes, then that fraud has been reduced. Because everybody's not voting vote by mail and they're not filling ballots out together, it makes it so that people have more freedom to vote their own conscience. Also, what is greatly neglected is you do have a right to speak on public property. And when we have polling places, this has allowed people to speak with fellow voters to get informed on the issues because they did not actually look up what they were supposed to vote on until they showed up there. So it's a lot of people will just either not vote on something, or they'll just vote on just some like 30-second examination of the text of the things, which is just incredibly bad. You might as well not vote at that point in time. But because we've always had this ability to speak at polling places, the removal of this ability abridges your right to free speak on public property, because it reduces the times, places, and manners where you can engage in effective free speech on public property. I do not have the option to go into a polling place where there's a lot of people where I could talk about what I'm just about to vote for. Instead, the ballot sits on the table till right before the election, and then sometimes does not get filled out. This would not happen if it was an absentee ballot situation. I would have requested it. I would have known when it was coming, and I would have been more prepared to fill it out. With the elections, with the mail-in vote, it's like you don't even, it's like, oh, the election's right now? Oh, I got a ballot, huh? And then the longer your ballot sits there, the more opportunity there is to steal the ballot. And yeah, you can get another ballot, but there's a problem, is that takes time. You have to call up to get the ballot sent to you. You might not do it, might cause you to not vote. So this is dangerous for this election, because people with Trump derangement syndrome they have every intention of committing mass voter fraud. And they cannot be trusted at all to ensure the election is fair. The only way that we can ensure the election is fair is by completely eliminating these people's ability to interfere with the election. Thus, vote by mail is fraudulent, never should have occurred. This blockchain technology sounds great, but it does not address the fundamental reason why vote by mail is fraudulent, and that's because of the voter intimidation and lack of free speech. So I do like where they started with this, but I don't like this being where it ended. I think that there is a lot of improvement to be done. And if you want to make a donation to this show at realsimplenews.net/issue 80, then your money will be helping to fund WikiSpy and the Freedom Government. so we can provide open source AI attorneys to low-income people that will automatically generate your court papers, and also to use blockchain technology to store our votes. And I have my own blockchain from scratch. So lots of cool open source projects here.